Go.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us for the 2020 AHA Training Network updates. The most important link in the entire AHA Training Network are the instructors. Using the network is the most efficient way of communicating science and education changes to all the instructors. My name is Kenny Navarro, and I'm a content consultant for the American Heart Association. I work with many of the product development teams to translate resuscitation science into the educational programs. This cycle, I also served as one of the authors of the Education and Implementation Guidelines. We hope that you were able to attend one of the earlier sessions to hear about the science changes and learn a little bit about the new digital resuscitation portfolio. If you didn't, the AHA recorded both of those sessions and will place them on the guidelines website. Okay, in this session, we're going to cover some key changes to the structure and flow of the resuscitation training programs, which hopefully will better prepare you and your instructors to be successful in transitioning to the new course formats. Some changes are specific to individual courses, while other changes apply to all course levels, both at the basic and the advanced levels. Many of the changes originated with concepts first described in the education statement published by the AHA in 2018. That statement is available on the instructor network and provides more detailed rationale than we have time to cover today. If you've not seen that document, it's worth the read. To begin, let's cover what will happen before the student sets foot in your classroom. So as in previous advanced courses, students must complete a pre-course self-assessment before attending class. The pre-course self-assessment is an online tool that evaluates a student's knowledge in 3 sections: rhythm recognition, pharmacology, and practical application. Students complete the assessment before the course and help evaluate their proficiency and determine the need for additional review and practice before the course begins. All students must complete the pre-course self-assessment and achieve a score of at least 70% before taking either the ACLS or the PALS course. A student can take the self-assessment as many times as they need to in order to achieve that passing score. And then students will need to print their successful scoring report and bring it with them to the first day of class. So over the years, both instructors and students identified a need to spend more time in class performing hands-on skills and developing the skills necessary to convert a resuscitation team into a high-performance team. To meet that need, the 2020 instructor-led provider courses for ACLS and PALS will now include some pre-course work. Completion of the work will help ensure students are minimally prepared for success in the course. So instructors have 2 options for determining how much pre-course work students should complete before they come to the course. For option 1, which is the recommended format for all of the 2020 advanced AHA courses, students complete both the pre-course self-assessment and the assigned pre-course work before coming to class. The pre-course work consists of a series of video lessons and knowledge checks along the way. By completing the pre-course work, the instructor will have more time in class to focus on the psychomotor components of CPR skills acquisition. Also with option 1, the students must present their pre-course self-assessment scoring report and their pre-course work certificate of completion before coming to class. As a bonus for selecting option 1, students in your courses can receive up to 3 additional continuing education credits. So the second option more closely resembles the current course format. Students will still complete a pre-course self-assessment before they come to class. However, all video lessons are shown in the classroom with the instructor. And unfortunately, continuing education credit is not available for the pre-course self-assessment as a standalone option in the traditional course. The choice of which option to use for teaching is made by the training center and the instructor. The benefits of using the pre-course work is that it allows more classroom time for hands-on skills and leads to students being better prepared to participate as soon as they enter the classroom. It also reduces the amount of time spent in the classroom. Instructors can find more information on pre-course work and how to prepare the students in the discipline-specific instructor manual and on the instructor network. All right, the student websites that previously housed the pre-course self-assessment will be disabled. All content that previously appeared there, as well as the new pre-course self-assessment and pre-course work, will now appear on AHA's new e-learning platform. Another important change for the 2020 courses is the introduction of online exams for instructor-led BLS, ACLS, and PALS courses. Through the use of a comprehensive item bank, the system will allow each student a unique experience when taking the exam. We no longer have to worry about version A of an exam appearing on eBay days after its release. The system will generate a new version of the exam every time a student logs into the system. Through the SHOP CPR site, training center coordinators will obtain access to the online exams. Access will be in the form of codes or individual URL, which then can only be used once. Although the training centers will continue to purchase the e-cards, there'll be no added fees for the exam codes or the URLs. At the end of each of the courses, instructors will provide codes to the students. Students will then use these codes to access the exam. Once the student submits the exam, the system will automatically grade the exam, and this will remove the burden of grading off of the instructor. If the student successfully passes the exam, the training center coordinator or the instructor will issue the appropriate e-card to the student through the AHA instructor network, just as they do now. Online exams improve exam security and are just one way the AHA ensures that cardholders around the world have met the same course completion requirements for classroom training. You can find more detailed explanations of these changes in the discipline-specific instructor manuals and on the AHA instructor network. In the previous courses and in actual cardiac arrest situations, the responsibility for monitoring chest compression quality fell to the team leader. The team leader fulfilled this responsibility in addition to overseeing many other critical tasks that were necessary for a successful outcome. Within the past decade, many high-performance resuscitation teams around the country began adding a new position to their team, often referred to as a CPR coach. The role of the CPR coach is to promote the delivery of high-quality CPR and allow the team leader to focus on other elements of the cardiac arrest care, coordinate the various team members' assigned tasks, and ensure that clinical care is delivered according to the AHA guidelines. This individual will focus on timing and compression quality based on audiovisual feedback devices, which then takes some of the burden off of the team leader. CPR coach position is built into learning and testing stations in both basic and advanced resuscitation courses. Data demonstrates teams who incorporate a CPR coach into their resuscitation efforts achieve higher quality chest compressions and higher chest compression fractions compared to teams who do not use a CPR coach. The coach will use information provided by the audio-visual feedback monitor to guide improvements in CPR performance, including compression depth and rate, as well as minimizing interruptions that occur with defibrillation, switches in chest compressors, and placement of an advanced airway. Another new educational concept for the 2020 courses is the introduction of a pre-briefing stage before the team begins the case scenario. During the pre-briefing session, the instructor will establish a safe learning environment by expressing an expectation of mutual respect for every team member. Immediately before the case scenario begins, the instructor will remind students that although mistakes will likely occur, they can be a source of learning. The instructor will also establish the ground rules for the simulation so that everyone knows how to conduct themselves properly. Finally, the team will set resuscitation performance goals for themselves. So for example, the team may decide that during that particular scenario, they can achieve a chest compression fraction of 75%. These goals may change with each subsequent case as the team identifies their weaknesses and develops an improvement plan. Now I want to hand this session over to my colleague, Deborah Hale. Deb will introduce herself and guide you through the next portion of the network update. Deb?
Thank you, Kenny. Hi, everyone. My name is Deborah Hale, and I work in the Education Department at the AHA National Center in Dallas. As an AHA instructor myself for many years before I became an AHA staff, I know how important it is to get the information you need as quickly as possible so that you can teach. Thank you for attending today to hear from AHA what you need to know. Our goal today is to help you feel prepared because we appreciate how much you support the mission of saving lives. In this session, we will discuss the process for you to get ready to teach new science and courses. You're attending today's session, so you're already on the pathway to getting guidelines ready. We'll cover 2020 guidelines instructor updates, how to use the interim materials, and completing product and course orientations once you have your new 2020 materials in hand. AHA's 2020 Guidelines Instructor Update courses are free to AHA instructors and will provide you with the key science to learn what to do for each course discipline. These updates are required for instructors to ensure that you can incorporate new science into current and new courses. The Program Administration Manual tells us that the AHA requires training centers to complete periodic updates, most notably when the new guidelines are released. However, the training center decides how official instructor updates should be documented. Check in with your training center coordinator at your earliest convenience to find out this information if you haven't already received direction. And if you are a training center coordinator, provide your instructors the policy for the instructor update documentation as soon as you can. 2020 Guidelines Instructor updates must be completed for each discipline that you teach. Instructor updates are available for the following disciplines now: BLS, ACLS, which covers ACLS and ACLS EP instructors, PALS, PAIRS, and HeartSaver. You need to know that if you are a BLS instructor that teaches HeartSaver, you should watch both of the instructor updates in order to teach both courses. And if you're a PALS instructor that teaches PAIRS courses, you'll need to watch both of those as well for the same reason. Please note that instructor updates are available now for HeartSaver and PAIRS. However, those new courses and materials are not. This is so that instructors of those courses are able to incorporate the latest science into the 2015 materials you have in hand until HeartSaver and PAIRS course materials are released in 2021. If you have a pen and paper in hand, get ready to mark down this date. All AHA instructors and faculty must complete the required instructor updates if you teach more than one discipline by February 1st, 2021. If that is so that you can continue teaching or if you're faculty overseeing AHA courses. This deadline coincides with the deadline by which AHA instructors for BLS, ACLS, and PALS must be teaching new courses using only the new materials. 2020 Guidelines Instructor updates can be accessed only by AHA instructors using their AHA Instructor Network credentials and logging into the AHA Instructor Network. Again, the instructor update courses are available free of charge on elearning.hart.org. Now let's discuss the interim materials. Interim materials are provided to AHA instructors to guide you on exactly how and where to incorporate the new science into the 2015 courses until you can begin teaching the 2020 courses using 2020 materials. These interim materials include lesson plan changes for your instructor manuals, changes for provider manuals, and interim exam information. Interim materials are available for BLS, ACLS, PALS, PAIRS, and HeartSaver. The interim materials should be used after you complete your 2020 Guidelines Instructor Update and until you begin teaching your new 2020 courses with the new 2020 course materials. Interim materials for BLS, ACLS, and PALS may not be used after February 1st because that's the date which all instructors must be teaching the 2020 BLS, ACLS, and PALS courses. You can access these materials on the AHA Instructor Network in the Science and Guidelines News section, and you can see a screenshot of what the page looks like on the screen now. Now let's discuss the product and course orientations. As in the past, the AHA developed product and course orientations, or PNCOs, to introduce AHA instructors to new courses and materials. The PNCO courses cover course design and format updates, new online exam information such as what Kenny talked about earlier, how to use instructor materials, and an overview of the provider materials. The PNCOs will be available for BLS, ACLS, and PALS courses since those are the courses that were launched today. You can anticipate the PNCO to take on average about 30 minutes. The PNCO courses are free and they're highly recommended for all AHA instructors to view prior to using your 2020 materials to teach new courses. It's very strongly recommended that you watch the PNCO once you have the 2020 BLS, ACLS, and PALS course materials in your hands so that you can use the PNCO and your materials to reference while watching. Access the PNCO courses also on elearning.hart.org. We have developed a quick checklist to help you determine if you are guidelines ready. This checklist is available on the AHA Instructor Network. Let's take a look and review this checklist and the necessary information that we have just covered. We know that many instructors are new to the process of guidelines releases, updates, and transitioning to new courses. We also know that there's a great number of you that have been through this process before, but we want you to know that there are many changes this cycle to where accessing and how to complete the updates can occur. To help guide the training network through the process of getting guidelines ready, we've created this checklist for you. The checklist covers the steps you need to take between now and February 1st. As you'll see, step one is attending today's session. So just by attending and listening, you can already check one item off of your to-do list based on this checklist. Also, for any of your colleagues who were not able to attend today, the session will be posted on the AHA Instructor Network within the next few business days. As soon as possible after today's session, you should plan to complete your 2020 AHA Guidelines Instructor Update e-learning course for each discipline that you teach. Remember, these courses can be accessed on elearning.hart.org under your AHA Instructor Network login information. Next, you'll want to familiarize yourself with the interim training materials so that you can continue teaching current or 2015 guidelines courses and integrating changes where necessary to provide the latest science to your students. You'll also need to purchase your 2020 instructor materials. Once you have those materials in hand, we highly recommend that you complete the product and course orientation for each discipline you teach. Product and course orientations are available for BLS, ACLS, and PALS. Again, they can be accessed on elearning.hart.org using your instructor network login information. Now, once you've completed those steps, you are guidelines ready, and you can start teaching new courses, either with the interim materials or with the new materials in hand. There are a couple of things that you need to plan for before you schedule your first BLS, ACLS, or PALS instructor-led class. First, you'll need to obtain online instructor information, which Kenny talked about earlier, either the one bundled with e-cards or as a standalone option from Shop CPR. If you're teaching an ACLS or PALS provider instructor-led course, you'll also need to decide which course format you're going to use for your class. If you will be following the new course format, which is recommended, you will use your sample pre-course letters to provide your students the detailed information they need to complete pre-course work and also the pre-course self-assessment prior to coming to class. If you're using the traditional format, you will guide your students to the standalone pre-course self-assessment instead. Again, resources to help you understand these new options are available on the Instructor Network and in your new 2020 Instructor Manual. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Robert Wales. He is the International Business Manager for AHA International. Robert?
Thank you, Deb. And thank you everyone for joining us today for these important science and education updates for our training network around the world. I'm Robert Wales, and I have the privilege of collaborating with leaders in our international training network to take our resuscitation programs to over 90 countries. As a paramedic and an AHA instructor, I'm excited to see the release of the 2020 guidelines today as we take one more step toward a world where no one dies from cardiac arrest. It's refreshing for me to see new guidelines reaffirm what we've already been teaching for years, while also giving us new areas of focus to emphasize with our students and improving our systems of care in our communities. The role of the instructor is growing as we see more opportunities to have an impact on cardiac arrest survival by improving resuscitation education, building stronger systems of care, and continuing to run training courses as we always have. So thank you for going on this journey with us. In order for you as an instructor to do your job well, you need to know where to access all of the resources that we've talked about today. If you've been an instructor during previous guidelines releases, you know there are a lot of different forms of information, different documents, and checklists for you to use as you transition from using 2015 materials to interim materials to the new 2020 guidelines materials. So first, we'll talk about the instructor network. For instructors in the United States, the instructor network should always be your first step to find information on courses and resources for running courses. Make sure that you are affiliated with your training center on the instructor network, or you won't have access to any of these materials. The instructor network contains a wealth of resources for our instructors and training centers on the 2020 guidelines and courses. You'll probably want to make a note of a few important sections that you'll need to reference for key 2020 guidelines information. First, under the News and Archives tab, you'll find the Science and Guidelines news page. On this page, we've included an archive of email communications that we've sent to the training network on the topic of new guidelines. So if you've missed any of those, you have a chance to go review them. This is also where you'll access and download all of your interim training materials, which Deborah covered in the earlier session. New resources to help you understand changes to the instructor-led BLS, ACLS, and PALS sections are also featured on this page. The instructor network is not just for guidelines releases, though. We upload new communications and publications from the AHA regularly, so be sure to check back frequently to make sure you have the most updated information from the American Heart Association. Next, we have new 2020 instructor resource pages for the BLS, ACLS, and PALS provider courses. You can find this by going to the courses section. There's new navigation on the left of the screen that indicates 2020 so that you can make sure that you're looking at the newest material that's available for you. On the 2020 guidelines BLS, ACLS, and PALS instructor resources page, you can access the pre-course materials that will help you plan and prepare your students, things like sample agendas, course rosters, equipment lists, and other resources that you can use. Skills checklists, training memos, frequently asked question documents, and other course information for instructors is also located on these pages. One important update that you'll want to note about these resource pages: the first printings of the instructor manuals for BLS, ACLS, and PALS indicate that lesson plans for these courses can be accessed on the instructor network, but that's actually not the case. Lesson plans are only available within the print or digital version of the AHA instructor manuals, so we'll correct this information soon. Finally, let's talk about access from the instructor network to your 2020 guidelines instructor updates. If you're on the AHA instructor network landing page or the dashboard, you'll see a widget that will take you directly to the 2020 guidelines instructor updates on elearning.heart.org. Please note that once you get to elearning.heart.org, you'll have to log in using your instructor network username and password to access these courses. If you're already logged in on your dashboard page, you'll find the widget that leads you directly there. So next, let's talk about the instructor community. If you're a member of the AHA instructor network, you also have access to our instructor community. The instructor community is the sister site of the AHA instructor network and is open to all members of the AHA training network. It's an online forum that right now has about 29,000 members. You can engage in peer-to-peer discussions, ask questions, and more. You've probably noticed that the 2015 and 2020 guidelines have placed increasing emphasis on education and systems of care for improving survival. The instructor community is a great place for us as instructors to share best practices and to learn from each other so that we can improve the education that we're giving and the systems of care in our communities. For the release of the 2020 guidelines, we've created a special section of the instructor community where you can discuss the latest science in the guidelines, what the guidelines mean for training, and more. This section also includes links to key 2020 guidelines information and resources. We encourage you to visit and join the discussion by clicking on the AHA Instructor Community widget on your AHA Instructor Network dashboard page. Next, we'll talk about CPR Verify. For instructors outside of the United States, you're probably already familiar with our CPR Verify system. For those of you inside the US, you can tune out for a minute. We'll be uploading all of the interim tools and all printable new material resources to CPR Verify as they release. To access these printable materials, navigate to the Information tab and select Course Materials under Category. In addition, you can access elearning.heart.org's instructor updates through the link that was placed on your dashboard earlier today. You'll also want to keep the public 2020 guidelines website bookmarked for convenient access to all the latest guideline science and resources. On this site, you can access the full guidelines organized by chapter, the full publication in the AHA's journal Circulation, and the guidelines highlights document, which provides a quick overview of the most important updates. The guidelines highlights document has been translated into 17 languages, so it serves as a very important resource for our international training network to be able to share the information quickly and easily with people in their community. In addition, there are visual assets and podcasts created by AHA volunteers who are involved in writing and producing the official guidelines, so you can take a deeper dive into that information if it interests you. There's also information on ordering a physical copy of the guidelines reprint, links to the AHA newsroom for media, and other things that will be added as time goes by. As you're communicating with those around you about the new guidelines, we encourage you to share this website. It's public facing with your students and your colleagues. Finally, we'll talk about the Science in Service. This is another resource that may be valuable to our AHA training network, the Science in Service e-learning course. This course is designed for healthcare providers, specifically staff of healthcare institutions and ES, who are seeking a fast and convenient way to learn the latest resuscitation science and key changes. This is an interactive, self-paced course, and it offers a full overview of resuscitation science changes impacting basic, advanced, and pediatric life support, and highlights science and guidelines recommendations that are most significant or that have resulted in changes in resuscitation practice and protocols. It's designed for institutions and professionals to adjust practices between the release of the 2020 guidelines and the next time that they take a BLS, ACLS, or PALS course. This course is designed for individual students and is not limited to instructors like the other resources that we've talked about today. But if you as an instructor have a role as an educator or in the quality assurance department of your organization, this gives you a good opportunity to share this same science information with all of the providers that you work with. Please note that if your organization is on Heart Code Complete or RQI, you can get this for free. But you can purchase this course for yourself or for students at shopcpr.heart.org. Thank you very much for attending today and listening to all this information. We're very happy to work with our robust instructor network around the world as we continue to pursue our joint mission of creating a world where no one dies from cardiac arrest. We're going to move on to taking some questions now. We've gotten some questions over the last few minutes that you've put in the chat box, so let us address those. So first we'll go to Deb. Deb, how will we know if the student passed the exam now that the exam is going to be administered online?
The exam is actually graded online, and they will be a certificate after the exam is complete that shows that successful completion.
Very good. And is there a renewal course for BLS?
There will be.
Very good. When students complete the pre-course work or the pre-course self-assessment, how do they show proof of completion to their instructor when they get to class?
Kenny, do you want to take that one?
So the pre-course assessment, at the end of it, there's a sort of a certificate that you can print that says the pre-course self-assessment. It shows you the different, the three different categories and what the score was. And then for the pre-course work, there's also a certificate of completion. So they'll have really two documents that they'll bring with them to the first day of class.
Thank you. So another question came in that said, do we need to get the codes to get the online exam from the training center? So it's important to emphasize there is a code, but it's not, we don't charge for the exams. A security ID is required to order the online exams, which training center coordinators have. And each training center should have a process for how they get those, how they keep those secure, and administer them to students to make sure that there's not a breach of that exam early on. And Deb, I think we have one more question for you. Are paper exams still available?
They are. In fact, the new 2020 exams for BLS, ACLS, and PALS were loaded this morning onto the instructor network, as well as the pre-course self-assessment for ACLS and PALS. And you'll note for the training center coordinators and those that download the exams off the exam management section that we have renamed or renumbered the 2015 so that it's very clear that you're getting the 2015 ACLS exam A and B packet or the 2020 ACLS exam A and B packet.
Great. And can you walk us through what happens if someone takes the online exam and does not pass it in 2 attempts?
I'm not sure actually that I know completely, but as I think I understand it, and Kenny, certainly you can probably chime in if you know, there was be a certificate that's printed that says unsuccessful is what I understand, but we can get that information out. In fact, there's going to be FAQs on the instructor network that probably will already address that question. And if it doesn't, we'll get it on there tonight.
Yes, and there are going to be a lot of questions that we don't get to answer today, but we'll form answers for those and add those to the FAQs that you can find on the instructor network. So we would definitely encourage you to keep checking back there and looking for those resources.
And Bobby, I think this is a great opportunity to remind everybody that the FAQs are a living document. And if you see them today, they may have things added next week based on the feedback that we get from the network. If we start getting a lot of the same question or started a lot of the same tone of like sections of instructor manuals or whatever, we add that to the FAQ so that it can just be a really robust green living document. So please refer to them before each class to ensure that you've got everything you need before trying to teach.
Okay. All right, I think that's it for today, but we'll continue to evaluate the questions as they come in, and we will work on developing the FAQ.
So if you have any other questions, now would be a great time to try to ask while we're here. We will endeavor to give every answer that we can or let you know what we can't and write it down on our listing to add to it. We can wait a few minutes while you think or while you type.
Okay, we have a question. Will my training center coordinator assist me in implementing the new 2020 format? Absolutely. Your training center coordinator is a great resource for you. They get all of the communication from the American Heart Association that you get as an instructor and additional support. And they have a more direct link to contact us if they have any questions. So if you have questions, your first stop after the instructor network should be your training center coordinator to see if they can help you answer any of those questions before having to escalate it. Absolutely.
Also, your training faculty.
Mm-hmm. So we have a question here about the exams online. Are they compatible with all devices? Deb, do you know the answer to that one?
I unfortunately was not on that work group, so I do not. But I do know that that will be listing in the spec document that is on the instructor network. We pretty much have to list that, and we do check all of that. We have a business technology group that checks every device possible and gives you the information that you need, whether you need a large phone, if you need a large tablet, or if it's just better visible on a PC or Mac.
And one point of clarification about the e-learning instructor updates. They are available on elearning.heart.org, but you need to go in through the instructor network for our US instructors or for CPR Verify for our international instructors and follow the link to elearning.heart.org. These courses are only for instructors. So if you just go to elearning.heart.org, you're not going to be able to find those exams there. We'll wait just a minute for some more questions to come in. we do that, I'll emphasize that in keeping with the times, we're moving from just having DVDs for the courses to also having a streaming service. We've piloted this over the last year or so, as many of you know, but we also have the option to download the video onto your device so that you can continue to teach the course even if you don't have a stable internet connection. You can find those online as well.
And this is all based on feedback from the network. So the more feedback, more questions you ask us, the better we can serve and help you teach and do what you need to do.
Okay, is it the intent for students to take the online exam in the classroom or later when they go home? The exam is intended to be done in class so that they can get the results there. If they were to take it at home after they've already left the classroom, there's no opportunity for the instructor to provide remediation without them coming back in. So yes, please have them take the exam in class, even if it is on their device. One more question about the instructor updates. Is there a charge for the e-learning instructor updates? No, they are free. Yeah, and the product and course orientations as well. Those are also free. By now, hopefully, you know that to get to those, you go to the Instructor Network or CPR Verify. All right. That's going to bring our session to a close today. Thank you all very much for your attendance and for your interest. Please feel free to keep asking questions and we'll keep addressing them as time goes on in the FAQ documents. Thank you very much for all that you do as instructors for the American Heart Association.
Thank you.